Hi, today we're going to do chili Colorado. I'm going to reference this New Mexican cookbook, but I always make my own variations to it. So I am going to show you while I'm actually making it, the 2 extra little items that I put in that aren't in this book. So like I said, I always add my special touch to everything. Okay, these are the majority of ingredients that go in to making chili Colorado. We have the pork, we have salt, garlic, and lard, homemade lard to the left, and red chilies that you have to put in hot water and soak. I soaked these overnight. You could use more chilies or less. This is the recipe right here, chili Colorado con carne. It calls for shortening in here, but I don't use shortening. I use lard, and it's not very much of it. It's 1 tablespoon. So these are the items, plus 2 others that I told you I would show you later that I usually use. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, one of the first steps we're going to do is chop up the pork meat. You could use a pork roast. If you're having, a lot of people for dinner, or you're a big family, you're going to want to use a pork roast, but we're not having family over. It's just 2 of us. So that's why I bought some pork steaks. And if I did have a pork roast, what I would probably do, and I've done it both ways, I would probably bake it in the oven first, the pork roast, because it's so large. And then I would cut it up like I'm doing now after I cooked it. It's just an easier way to do a full pork roast because it's really a large piece of meat. So this is kind of easier in a way, but there's a lot of bones, so I have to cut around it. So this is the first step that we're doing, is chopping up the pork. I am leaving some of the fat on because the fat is what gives it a lot of flavor. I don't leave the fat on all the pieces, but I do leave fat on because that's what gives it flavor. And I could even cut the fat off and cook it in there and then take it out, so you don't have to eat it, but it can cook with the meat because that's what lard is made out of, pig fat, and it gives it so much flavor. That's why everybody likes to use it in a lot of their cooking. It's all in a balance. It's all, how you do it. If you just eat lard all the time and fat, that's not good. But if you do it on occasion, in moderation, on just special meals that you're making, it's fine. And that's what I do. I don't use lard for everything I cook. I use olive oil. But for something like this, you're going to want to use it. Okay, we've cut up all the meat. There is a little bit of fat on some of the cubes I cut, but not all of them. Just enough to give it the flavor you want. So I'm going to add a little salt, probably like 1.5 teaspoons altogether. And you want to add always a little more salt when you're cooking something rather than not cooking something, because it absorbs it in the oil. So now we're going to go over to the skillet and start the frying process. First, we're going to add just a few tablespoons of lard, about like that. And if we need more, we can do that and add a little bit more. So this is what we're going to do. I've already heated the pan on the stove, so we're going to add the pork. We're going to go over to the stove and we're going to start the process. In the meantime, we're going to be chopping up some fresh garlic. This garlic is going to go in the chili sauce. It's not going to be sauteed with the pork. This is going to be going in the food processor with the soaked chilies and this garlic and my little secret ingredients I told you about. So we're almost there. So we're browning the meat. And once it's completely browned, there won't be too much grease left in this pan. It'll all be pretty much absorbed because there really isn't a lot of lard in here. If there is excess, we'll definitely drain it. Okay, here are the soaked chilies that I put in the food processor. I put some liquid from the chilies that you soak them in. I put a little more. That gives it flavor. I put my secret ingredient, like a teaspoon of cocoa and a teaspoon of peanut butter. Those are my secret little ingredients. They do use that to make mole. It's not part of my New Mexican chili Colorado recipe. It's just something I like to add. So it kind of turns out like in between a mole and a chili Colorado, but I really like that. So here we're going to blend everything together. And first we're going to add the chopped garlic, and this is 2 cloves. Here we go, blending it however long it takes to make sure everything's mixed properly. Now the last ingredient I'm going to add to this red chili is to add some of the pork broth that gives it flavor, and we're going to mix that. Now the last step before we add the red chili is to put probably about a teaspoon and a half of flour in the meat in advance to kind of thicken the sauce. When we add the chili sauce, it's gonna be thinner, so we'll have to add the flour, and we're gonna add 1 more teaspoon. So you mix it together. So that'll give it a thickening agent. And now we're going to add the chili sauce. Okay, here it goes. Here's our delicious red homemade chili sauce going in. There are, like I said, some seeds in. 2/3 of the seeds I took out. We do have more of the liquid that the chilies were in, so we can add that because it will need more liquid. So we'll just keep our eye on this. It'll cook for about an hour. Okay, here's the chili Colorado cooking. It's nice and thick because I added the flour. And it's got probably about 20 minutes left. So I just want to kind of show you how it looks. Really colorful and looks delicious. Okay, our chili Colorado is done. It's very good. Let's give it a try. It came out just like it's supposed to. This is the consistency, how it's supposed to be, kind of creamy and thick because the flour that we added in the beginning. So let's give it a try. Really good. This cooked for 2.5 hours. The longer it cooks, the more flavor it has. And you can cook it less time, but you can cook it more time. This really turned out fantastic. I hope you give this a try, and I hope it turns out wonderful for you. Thanks for watching.